Welcome back to the PCS as we head on to game 2 of the day. It's going to be between the second place and fourth place team of the PCS right now, Boom Esports, about to take on Machi Esports. But before we get into the action, a big shout out to our sponsors, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Chunghwa Telecom for making all of this possible. We really appreciate your generosity to the league. Now going on into the series, this is one where we have some very stark contrast in styles, especially coming out of the mid lane. G-Mian, as you have mentioned before at the start of the day, great performances on the Akali. In the meantime, Ruby coming in from a very different angle and attacking from the control mage position.
Yeah, he's kind of playing, he's brought the old meta straight back into he's time traveled, you know? So, a bit of an outdated champ pool, but he has sprinkled in some of the more meta champs. We'll see what he ends up going into in this series, but one of the stark differences is just the fact that on one hand, you have Boom, who are banning Akali on both sides of the pick and ban, and on the flip side, you have Machi, who don't really throw a lot of attention into the Akali pick when it comes to the ban phase, because they know they have G-Mian in the mid lane who can just take it and run with it.
G-Mian so far has played 2 consecutive games of Akali, won both of them, and has a 17 KDA on the champion. You definitely do not want to let that man get to his assassins. He's absolutely disgusting on them. On the other hand, we do have to commend Boom Esports. I don't think a lot of people have expected Boom to jump out to a second place start so far in the PCS. We're going to be taking a look at their roster, and for today it will be Alex starting over Holo, Rocky in the top side, Ruby, the man we're talking about, the control mage, Maestro in the mid, and Wako and Pop rounding out the bottom side.
And fun fact, Alex's pro name when he came into when he debuted as a pro was actually Boom, so everything coming full circle here as he joins his original namesake here. So one of the big things when it comes to this roster, besides Ruby's champ pool, and is just the dynamic between Alex and Hollow. And I feel like when it comes to taking on a lot of these upper echelon teams, you are going to see Alex a little bit more because he's a little bit more controlled, he's tempered, he knows when to give up fights when need be and try and control the wild beast that is known as Boom Esports, because I feel like this team is really all over the place, and it showcases kind of how unruly their game time is at 33.5 minutes.
Very long game times, and you really did hit the nail on the head about the rotations. It does seem like Alex is going to be the mainstay when they're going up against higher tier teams, like you mentioned. And Holo, even though he has great stat lines, it has been against more of the bottom half of the league coming in. So definitely still keeping Alex in the forefront while giving Holo some good exposure. In the meantime, we're going to move over to Machi Esports team. They always run the same roster pretty much. Lee Kai coming in from the top lane, Gemini in the jungle, G-Mian in mid, Atlan and Koala for your bot.
And what really excites me about this squad is Gemini, he's just such a stable jungler, but then you have these solo laners in Lee Kai and G-Mian that have just been so explosive. And while I have a couple reservations about this bottom lane, you can definitely make this top half work for most of the teams against it or in the PCS.
I'm especially really awed just by Lee Kai's performances. A lot of the times, Machi does like to go for a blue side draft, and Lee Kai has to play a blind pick top laner. But he's been doing incredibly well. We saw the blind pick Set and the blind pick Camille yesterday, and he was able to win both of his lanes to the shock a lot of observers and analysts. You know, if you're a top laner and you get counterpicked, there's really not much you can do. But Lee Kai is just a cut above everyone else. He's still able to overpower his lane opponents, and he's also added such a great split push game to his arsenal.
Yeah, Lee Kai's just been overall so strong compared to a lot of these other PCS top laners. And I would say our strong point in the PCS is a lot of these top laners as well, as that's actually just going to be the highlight matchup. It's going to be Rocky and it's going to be Likai, and the damage numbers pretty solid from both of these team members. And Likai, that number in the solo kill column, that's the one that really stands out.
We'll be keeping track of the solo kill king as the season progresses. Also taking a look at the goal difference at 15, that's just massive. Rocky, a lot of the times he is more often than not getting the counter pick, but Likai has to fly in blind and he's still delivering. That's just, I mean, what, as a coach, what more could you possibly want out of a top laner that can still win lane when you don't give him draft resources? We are going to head straight into the draft phase, and like Nightstar has mentioned, you definitely don't leave Akali for Jimian. That's going to be taken off right away. And they also throw in the LeBlanc ban, so very targeted at Jimian in this draft. On the other hand, Machi are going to take away junglers and potentially top laners in the Nocturne and the Zinza.
So far, it does leave the Viego available here, and for the most part here in our league, Viego has been really struggling. He's had 18 picks and only a 40% win rate. However, boom, they'll go straight back onto the pick just because of how much flexibility it offers in a draft, and also, of course, just those late game reset potential. Always something to watch out for.
So far, we haven't seen Rocky pick up the Viego just yet. I'm sure he probably plays it, and but for now, we have to assume that most likely it will be Alex's champion. He does favor these sort of late game carries. On the other side, Machi X returning with the more standard draft phase. Going to take the Thresh, keep the Aphelios open, and also take the Lee Sin for themselves. Another flex pick that can go into the jungle, can go top lane or mid for that matter.
Yeah, a lot of draft flexibility for Machi here. Is you get yourself the Thresh, which opens up those late game hyper carry options if you want to go ahead and pick that for Atlan, and then you also get the ability to just really attack these solo lanes with this Lee Sin pick. Boom, they've gone ahead, responded with the Ziggs Leona, a lane that we've seen a whole lot here. You have decent level 6 potential because of your Wombo, and you also just pack so much magic damage that you can go for a very AD focused draft for the rest of it if you really want to.
Seems really fun, and Wako used to be a mid laner, transitioned over to AD carry when he was on AHQ, so should be very comfortable with these mage picks. On the other hand, Machi Esports gonna lock in that Aphelios. Even though they're staring down at the kill combo like you just mentioned from the Leona and Ziggs, they're still willing to just go ahead and go for the hyper carry. Much more of a solo lane focused team coming in from Machi's side, so maybe they're okay with the Aphelios as just being weak side. They're going to take away the Jace, and in the meantime, Boom Esports, they know about Likai's champion pool, going to take away the set. See what they decide to go in for more. The mid lane is pretty much wide open at this point. And I wonder if Machi wants to limit some of that Vladimir or Cassiopeia shenanery coming out from Ruby. Probably not, but I feel like
for
Ruby
the most part
is a very different player. Wow.
Yeah, for the most part, I feel like it's difficult to lock down what champs you want to take away from Ruby here. So they go ahead, target 2 Rocky champions, very lane dominant in the Jace, and then also just a lot of mid-game teamfight impact coming in from a Wukong pick. So trying to limit his power here in this draft, as looks like Machi, they're going to go ahead and draft their top laner blind and save counter pick for Jimian. This makes the most sense. However, because of this Camille pick, it is one of those picks that needs a bit of help during the lane phase. So we'll see how Boom decide to respond for Rocky.
I would not put it beyond Rocky to come up with some very strong counters against the Camille. Rocky does like to play his fighter champs as well. We are going to get a special delivery coming in from Alex.
Okay.
He's going to go for the Zach. We did see this from LCK yesterday. A bit of a weaker pick in terms of the just the jungle dueling potential, but one of the strongest engage in teamfight champions that we have. Meanwhile, we will see Pop lock in Volibear for Rocky. Another pretty strong champion early on against Camille. And Jimian with the last pick, he has to think about what he wants to go for here. He is facing a Viego mid. Seems like he's going to hover the Silas, and we'll lock that in.
He will end up locking in Silas. It's a little bit interesting what ultimates he's going to really target here when it comes to some of these fights, because the Viego, it's not really a, I would say, big threatening ultimate. It's mostly just to travel around the fights, which could make him a really big nuisance here because of how many jumps Silas already has, and then you add in the Viego ultimate on top of that. And then you've got these big team fight influencing ultimates like the Volibear, like the Zac, and then also, of course, the Leona ultimate being able to really start fights with that as well. So Jimian has a lot of options when it comes to these fights. It's just a matter of which one he's going to pick and choose.
I actually have to say I love this Boom Esports draft. This is probably my favorite draft of theirs so far. It has so much kill potential, and triple members bring hard crowd control to the fight. Then you get resets from Viego against a more standard 1-3-1 comp coming out from Machi Esports. I do like the theory here. I don't think Machi Esports is going to be able to sit Atlan mid lane and just keep him alive throughout the entire game. It's very targeted at the archetype that Machi Esports has brought out.
Yeah, Machi, they are really banking on Jimian, I would say, to be the superhero when it comes to these team fights, to create space for the rest of the team. And for the side of Boom, I definitely give the straight up team fight over to them just because of how much dive pressure they do have onto Atlan. They have plenty of damage coming in with the Ziggs to provide that extra little bit of burst to try and get that first Viego reset. And because of how low range both of these compositions are, most of this game is going to be focused around just brawling nonstop.
And that's the game we like to see here in the PCS. Non-stop action is my true calling. Rocky flashing the emote straight off the base, ready to BM. And we're going to see a 5-point split from both teams, but a lot of pings coming in from the Machi side. Let's see if they're going to go for some level 1 shenanigans. Alex does hit the river first, and we have Koala already poking in for some deep wards. Doesn't drop it just yet. Going to be taking a look at the summoners and rune choices so far. Anything tickle your fancy here?
Nothing overly surprising, although this level 1 trade looks pretty good.
Alex does have that passive, so he's not going to be extending the flash or leveling into anything. Just walks out okay. Very calm, collected play.
You're going to try and stop his back, though, and really nice block coming in from Ruby there, which saves Alex a lot of suffering in this early game. Without it, probably has to either delay his back once again and recall late, or he would have to pop potions. Neither of them ideal situations.
Yeah, just decides to get a full reset. We'll start out on the bottom side, so we have opposite jungle starts from both of these teams. We're going to have Gemini ending up on the bottom lane while Alex trying to find a gank top. Typically, we do have very fast clears from Zac, but not a great duelist, so he does have to be careful if that Lee Sin will invade. Ruby, early levels, getting a lot of value out of just the auto attack range and the Blade of the Q harass. Blade of the Ruin King harass. That's such a mouthful for an item and an ability right there. Meanwhile, we do
Yeah.
have a lot of trading coming in from the bottom side. Koala just walking up against Pop, but doesn't get the better side of that one. Does heal with the Font of Life at the end, and does get that early level 2, so we see Boom Esports backing off immediately.
And one of the real big drawbacks here when you do run a Ziggs lane is it's very hard to contest early wave priority, especially into a double range setup here with the Thresh, with the Aphelios. Aphelios so strong, level 1 with the Crescendum. So it's going to work out quite well for them, having that extra range in this matchup. And it's really just for Wako to hit level 6 as comfortably as possible without losing too much, and then hopefully find an opening or just really try and facilitate Pop to do his damage elsewhere on the map.
So far, pretty smooth early game for both sides. We did have a lot of defensive warding from Boom Esports to make sure Lee Sin doesn't try and counter engage. Alex is going to full clear rather safely, taking the path we expected. Just making sure he gets level 6 earlier on. Zach was buffed in one of the previous patches, but it was mainly an AP Zach buff. So
Yeah.
don't expect to see that really. Rocky takes a bit of a bad trade here as Likai just flies right in, but doesn't get the hook shot. So Rocky still comes up on top.
Good trade there coming in from Rocky, and also pass properly to dodge out on that hook shot wall dive. And Gemini finishing his pathing towards that bottom lane, making sure that if there's a dive opportunity presented to him, he wants to take advantage of that. And he'll just go ahead, recall, reset, look for perhaps a play in the top side, as Rocky is a little bit shoved up at the moment, and very well-timed ward means that they are going to get vision on Alex, as this is kind of the timing he would like to try and make a gank happen in the bottom side, as he does have the extra engage range.
Really nice satchel charge coming in from Wako. No follow-up from Pop, though. And Machi are going to get away with that bot lane trade. In the meantime, love the recall timing on Rocky's side. We did see the question mark pings onto the Krugs coming out from Boom Esports. Definitely suspected that Gemini would be in the area. And Rocky able to hold his own quite well in this matchup early on. Something that we do expect of the Volibear versus Camille. And overall, even though Boom Esports has been a very slow team, they have been coming out of this laning phase pretty well. Leads in both of the solo lanes. Ziggs falling behind just a tad, but that is to be expected. Alex was spotted here, coming down on the ward.
Still gonna go though.
Find the engage, still gets it regardless. Is gonna find the stretching arm straight into the gank, and that's first blood. Very unexpected outcome, given that Alex just pretty much walked through 2 wards.
Yeah, I can definitely hear the question marks going off in your head as the death game. There was like, huh, they actually died to that one, because yeah, it's exactly as you said. He went through ward coverage, and Atlan Koala, they continued to try and force the play, or at least stay up that far. And now Gemini, he's going to try and capitalize on Wako being way too far out.
Gemini is going to find the comeback kill. Atlan funnels into the play too. And that's just going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Wako, that is that's pretty typical Wako. He does like to push his advantage quite a bit. Gemini going to punish him for that one. And now both of these bot laners have suffered a death each. Of course, Boom Esports does come out ahead a bit more with that first blood and the first Drake as well. Ocean Drake serves them quite well in these sort of poke and more long-range lane setups. We're going to take another look at how Gemini was able to find this one.
Yeah, it's just Wako walking up, no mana, trying to crash the wave into the tower. He knows, hey, it's just a support, so we'll try and take advantage of that. But Gemini's there, and he was able to bypass everyone else who were on the dragon. So good kill there, coming back for the side of Machi. But as you said, Boom, they get first blood, they also get dragon, so overall the advantage is theirs. It does help that now Gemini is level 6 though, so hopefully putting this extra EXP to good use as he tries to make his next big play.
I gotta say, I don't even blame Wako. Whenever I see an opponent support trying to hold the wave in front of me, there's like 6 minions there and he's still trying to face tank, I get really pissed and I want to walk up and kill him. So Wako, you did the right thing. You can't let Koala disrespect you like that. Even if you die, sending the message is probably more important. Okay, Alex going for the gank once more. He was
Level
not
6.
spotted here, able to dance around vision. The ward drop is there, so Machi definitely know about this. And a great interrupt onto Atlan. He's not able to take the dark passage. Will die for a second time. In the flip side though, Gemini trying to get one back. Look at the Dragon's Rage, but has to walk right out as Rocky does successfully pop the ultimate and get the extra HP.
Yeah, I actually love that series of plays coming in from Rocky, especially just ulting at the start instead of ulting after he gets kicked means that he has the extra HP to deter the rest of the damage from coming through. And they also just call a brilliant play in that bottom lane, once again taking advantage of a bit of a weaker bot lane in Atlan and Koala. So far, the game plan has been very, very good from Boom when it comes to the lane phase. It's always just been transitioning out of lane phase where they've had a couple of issues. We'll see how that ends up playing out as the game goes.
Oh, it's so nice. We have to catch it twice. Man. He just lands on top of Atlan during the dark passage, not even having to use stretching strikes on that one or even popping his ultimate. He just gets it right off the bat. That was incredible accuracy and prediction coming in from Alex there.
Yeah, and it was really doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. If you try and wait for the stretching strikes and then try and grab the lantern, the follow-up's going to be there from the Leona to further lock you down. So it was just a really, really difficult situation for Atlan, and the only way out of that situation was just not be in that situation to start with.
True, and this bot lane is going to continue to be a target. Flash is still not up. Boom Esports do have that kill combo like we talked about in the draft, so if they throw all of their abilities and they all land on Atlan, he's just a dead man. There's actually nothing he can do in this matchup. Why we see Ziggs and Leona pick so much into the Aphelios. However, Machi has never really relied on their bot lane to win their games. They don't really need Atlan to carry. It's much more about their scaling solo laners. And in that regard, they're actually still fine. So Machi probably not too phased by the results so far.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little bit interested in what this Aphelios build will end up being, because we've seen Unified going for the lethality build by going for Gale Force straight into the Collector just to try and maximize your teamfight burst potential, and really more focus around that ultimate rather than relying on your auto attacks as much here. And it takes advantage of the fact that lethality on Aphelios did get buffed in his passive. As things scale up, he's able to get more lethality, and perhaps that's what Atlan is going to go for, just trying to say, all right, I'm basically an ult bot, I'll send out as much burst as possible, and hopefully the rest of the team can take advantage of it and mop the floor.
I'm going to take the opposite side on this. I feel like he's going for Immortal Shield Bow just to survive. Because he is the only ADC I've seen build Bloodthirster so far this split. We're going to have a gank from Alex. Stretching Strikes doesn't land, and G-Man is able to walk back. Meanwhile, Gemini finds a golden opportunity to just open up on Rocky. Koala, though, is going to get targeted down, and that's exactly like we said, the full combo. Boom Esports does find a kill there, but will they be able to trade it back on Machi's side? Stretching Strikes come back, and that's going to be a 2-for-0 on the side of Boom. This bot lane is definitely exploding underneath the pressure from the kill combo. Meanwhile, on the top side, Gemini does pop the Herald, but doesn't find the kill on Rocky.
Yeah, and it's just a trade of focus here for the side of Boom. They're really, really focused on trying to get Wako ahead and it really reflects in a draft, right? Because Rocky's on this Volibear. You have so much dive potential with the Leona and Zac, and even as well being able to bring Rocky to go ahead and further augment your dive in that bot side. It's all about killing this Aphelios as much as possible. And so far, he's died 3 times. However, to Atlan's credit, he's not fallen too far behind in the CS department. So if he's able to stay relevant in that regard, there is value for him when it comes to some of these team fights. But again, if he goes for that shield bow, as you were thinking, it's going to be difficult.
Oh, this is such a good punish from Boom Esports. Just one small misstep, and then Atlan gets baited and loses both of his summoners here. That's going to be massive for the upcoming Drake fights, and I've got to say, Machi not really showing up so far in this game. Haven't been able to do much outside of just trading 1 kill back here. And we do see the patented Ziggs play here with that extra tower-taking ability. Swapping around the map can be very detrimental to the enemy team. Machi are going to set up a bit of a death brush here. Pop walking forward. Let's see if he gets caught out, but Koala will show himself, and Pop immediately retreats back from the river.
Really safe conservative play coming in from the dual lane of Boom. They know that there is a bounty on this Ziggs, so if they concede that bounty, it kind of undoes a lot of their efforts in trying to keep this Aphelios down. Now, Machi, they're pretty much relegated to try and cut off rotations with just bush camping here. Alex will be spotted on that control ward, and we'll see if they try and make an aggressive move either onto Alex or just onto this mid lane tower.
Really smart rotation coming in. Atlan does miss his entire ultimate, but doesn't really matter. They're just here for the mid laner. That was well played by Machi. They scare topside from Boom Esports. Boom Esports don't really want to rotate out of their own lane, and then they transition everyone to mid for a surprise mid lane tower. Well done on their side. We could see that at this point, Wako is starting to hurt. Even with the Leandri's Anguish build, his burst damage is definitely there. Takes a huge chunk out of Jimian. And we will see Boom Esports on the flip side just starting this objective. Nothing Machi can do about this one. They have completely reset. Does look like they will be going in on the 1-3-1 from this point forward. So Boom Esports does have to prop up their side lanes, or else these matchups should be going in favor of Machi the later the game goes. Meantime, Wako, wow, his damage is disgusting.
Yeah, Ziggs, when he's able to get out of the lane phase pretty much scot-free, he becomes just an absolute menace because you get more points and you just start doing so much damage to structures with your passive, in addition to, of course, that satchel charge. And that means for the side of Boom, they are able to accumulate almost a 2k gold lead. However, because the gold lead isn't that much, Machi, when it comes to just lining up for the side lane 1-3-1, they're still going to be able to do a lot of damage here and recuperate some of that. But Alex is here to try and gank Lee Kai. Doesn't look like they're going to commit. Yeah, Lee Kai knows.
Very good warding from Machi. They do spot out Alex after he heads towards the Krug. So Lee Kai's going to play this one relatively safe. We do have the next Drake up in just about a minute. Both teams starting to invest heavily in vision on this sector. And for the full team fight, I do think Boom Esports is probably still favored in this composition.
Yeah, there's just really no way to stop the healing coming through from Alex and Ruby once they get that first kill. Of course, Alex just has a bunch of innate healing from just the bloblets here. And looks like they're going to throw down this Rift Herald and force the fight.
Ultimate goes down, full combo onto Koala. They don't get him just yet, but do force him into stasis. Jimian trying to come in onto the fight, and he does take the Stormbringer down. Ruby is going to be the target, has to flash out Lee Kai in as well, but is he in too deep? Stretching Strikes does not bring him back. and both sides do disengage. Very surprised that nobody dies there. Lots of summoners burned, but at the end of the day, Boom Esports do get the objective. However, Machi relish in the fact that they do have the inner track onto the Drake, and Boom Esports without their full combo doesn't look like they're going to contest.
A lot expended from the side of Boom as they drop 4 ults there, and for the side of Machi, you would say that their composition is much less reliant on ultimates to really have that one-punch sort of threat here. So that's why they're able to rotate over for the dragon, secure that one, and now secure themselves a bot lane tower. So overall, a minor win for Machi as they're able to even out the turret trade and also grab themselves that dragon. But for the side of Boom, yes, you lose that dragon, but you're still up in gold. So advantage still pretty even here, in slight advantage for Boom.
We do have a catch developing in the top side. Koala not even going to show himself, but Ruby snippets something out. Just going to back out immediately. And during that fight, I was paying attention to the player cams. Wako seems to have a case of hot hands. He was just like, oh, I'm smoldering on my right hand right here. I cannot miss. It was a pretty good catch onto Koala. Unfortunately, not sure if that was the best target. G-Man still finds the abduct over the minion wave. Okay, some funky hitboxes going on, but he definitely finds his target there. And once again, we are going to see Ruby just back out of this side lane completely. Even though they have river vision, he does suspect that someone is behind G-Man. And he is totally correct. Gemini is there waiting for him. He's just going to give up this tower for free, pick up the wave after the tower. And we do see Machi falling back into their standard 1-3-1, but this time they do have Likai very close on the sides. Let's see if Boom Esports can respond to this one. In situations like this, Boom Esports should be the one that wants to play a little bit more aggressive. You don't have that mid lane turret there to defend Aphelios anymore. But for now, they just go back and forth.
And right now, for the side of Machi, they're just trying to get really deep vision here to secure vision for their sideliners, but also to be able to cut off rotations, to try and pick people off. And the response from Boom is, well, let's just not go into our jungle. We're just staying in our lanes. We're approaching the midway point of each of our lanes straight from lane, and that means that they're really, really safe when it comes to obtaining the farm. However, it still means that it's pretty dark when it comes to traversing between lanes.
You do see the ebb and flow of the game starting to develop. It's Boom Esports. They don't want to go in the side lanes that much. They're going to go for a full catch onto Atlan. And when that doesn't succeed, then Machi gets to push very far into both side lanes. They get to walk and take river control. So we're going to see this cycle over and over again. And it's really about how well Atlan can survive all of this. Personally, I don't think Atlan has been the best AD carry at keeping himself alive. So maybe Boom Esports will succeed and possibly snowball that into a Baron. But I'm not going to rule anything out. We have seen miracles. We have seen players just start to level up throughout the split. For now, though, it looks like Machi does have a pretty favorable tempo. As long as they're not getting caught out, they will continue to scale. They do have Likai going towards that 3-item point where he's going to be very difficult to deal with. And it seems Boom Esports know that they're on a bit of a timer as well. They're going to be start setting up for Baron, maybe trying to goad Machi into that 5v5 before they're really ready.
And both of these teams don't necessarily have a ton of Baron damage, a little bit more on the side of Boom because of the fact they have the entries, but for Machi, it's going to take a bit of a labored effort to be able to take that down quickly, at least at this point in the game because of the Aphelios items. So for the side of Boom, they're relatively comfortable slow approaching the Baron, but their real big thing is trying to find a fight because they're, again, on a bit of a timer. Their composition is mostly magic damage threats, so they have to be really the first ones on the play when it comes to rotating for these towers. As Ruby potentially caught out here. I don't think Elysian wins the 1v1 against Viego, though.
Probably not. interesting series of play from Machi. Likai actually TPs to mid. They lose the tower anyway, and Jimian isn't able to find a return. Now we do have Machi just starting up the Baron directly. It is spotted though, and we do have Ziggs with the Mega Inferno Bomb going down. Koala flash into the Death Sense, does land, and they find a pick directly onto Pop. Huge find there is going to allow them to rotate for another tower. And Boom Esports has no answer at this point. Down one member, Machi heading towards Baron. How are they going to deal with this situation? Alex looking for the potential engage onto the back line. Doesn't land, but gets the stretching strike on one target. Doesn't find a return. And in goes Gemini. They know they have the numbers advantage. They're going to be funneling in. Rocky caught out with the Hextech ultimating and not jump out. And that's going to be another death for Boom.
Unfortunately, the Hextech ultimatum cage just kept him from getting over that wall. Alex, or Rocky, unable to jump out with that ultimate. That means 2 fall for the side of Boom. And slowly but surely, Machi starting to really work the map here. Is when it comes to this rotational game through the jungle, this is where they're really scary. A beautiful hook lands, and they're instantly able to delete Pop. There's just so much damage built up, and now the re-engage is a little bit wishful, but because of them being able to get Jimmy into half health, they're feeling pretty courageous.
This was a fight where I didn't really expect Boom Esports to play it out that way. But we're going to go right back into more action. Alex does drop down into his passive. Likai on the flank is making sure Wako cannot join this fight. And they're still forcing the enemy jungler. Stormbringer coming out from the side of Jimian. He almost dies, should still fall. And Boom Esports are going to walk back. It is a 3v4 situation. Mountain Drake is still up. Atlan is going to start this one, but it's a very risky proposition here as Boom Esports is going to cut the retreat routes off. Let's see if Ruby can find his angle into the team fight. Likai waiting on the wins, and who is going to secure this objective? Smite advantage onto Gemini. He goes in, does get the Mountain Drake. The Koala is falling incredibly low. Rocky backs out. The Graviton comes down. Ruby is untargetable right now. And they do walk out okay. So Boom Esports, they tried to hedge their bets, unable to find a return kill or the objective, and Machi to get out of a dicey situation unharmed.
And that was actually such a tense situation there coming in from Boom, but because now they have respawn timers on their side, they're going to go straight over to this Baron buff. So even though they are on a ward, they don't really care. They're going to try and burst it down as fast as possible. They have enough damage on Wako at this point in the game. Can they actually get into the Baron to contest?
Already down to 1k, but Gemini does find the Q, doesn't find the smite though, and Alex secures the Baron.
They're still going.
Team fight ensues. Likai finds Wako into the backline without any mana.
They're actually winning the fight
on the front. Rocky is down already. All members of Boom Esports have to run away, but they're getting cut off from all different sorts of angles. Jimian is going to start up, but he's very low HP, does manage to dodge out. Gemini goes back in. On the flip side, Wako goes down to Likai, and Boom Esports has to fight their way through multiple members, but Jimian stays alive for so damn long. He was below 300 HP, but keeps himself alive. Pop the only one left, and Machi finds the ace plus the emote flash.
Boom Esports, they tried to take the Baron. They were able to secure it, but unfortunately too many cooldowns and resources were used. And that meant they didn't have enough left over for the rest of the fight. Wako dumps his entire mana bar. And for the side of Machi, yes, they weren't in position to contest the Baron, but because of the Baron damage and also the shred from Baron, it left them more than fragile enough for them to just come in, mop the floor with Boom.
The hardest part about a bank heist is always the getaway. I'm not speaking from personal experience, but that tends to be the case here. We see multiple ultimates burn directly
Wako
from
has
Boom,
no mana.
It doesn't really dissuade anything from Machi. They're still able to walk in on the back line, and look at Alex. He needs to jump backwards just to save Wako. And Machi have such a good rap here. G-Man, for me, has to be the MVP of that entire fight. He stops everyone from getting away despite being low health and somehow survives here. Look, he's below 300 HP, but with the Kingslayer and the Flash and those gap closers, is able to just dance around all the damage and clean up afterwards as well.
Yeah, and at this point in the game, Boom, they just don't have much damage left in their composition. They're probably around 85-90% magic damage focused because of pretty much everyone on their composition deals magic damage except for Ruby, and he's really just there to try and find that first reset, so he's going to be somewhat late when it comes to contributing damage into these fights, just trying to be as patient as possible and execute a low health member. So once this MR starts coming through from Machi, it just becomes more and more impossible for them to get that first reset.
And like you were talking about the magic resistance, we do have a whole line of Mercurial Treads being built here, so they're not even going to take that much crowd control. Does feel like Machi has just gotten to the point where their side lanes can dominate the game. Ruby is going to get caught out, forced to fight. He will try to run away, pops the ultimate, but G-Man is in very close pursuit here. Even has to force Alex here, which does open up the rest of the map. Gemini, in the meantime, still hunting for a Sonic Wave onto Wako. It's a really difficult game for Alex to play. His jungle is constantly being invaded by both side lanes of Machi, and he needs to keep his laners alive at the same time. Boom Esports, as we have talked about, they do find it engage onto G-Man. He's in no man's land and just goes down for free. On the flip side, Machi do get a tower for their mid laners' sacrifice. Not sure that's completely worth it, but they do get something out of it.
They're able to at least get a tower, but again, I would agree with you. Losing G-Man there slows down that push incredibly, or quite a bit, as they're going to be forced to recall and try and just jostle for positioning around this next dragon. It is 2 mountain dragons already secured for Machi, so that makes it even harder for Boom to get that first reset, and if the third comes through, or even the soul, that's when this comp is pretty much doomed. So they have to try and look for a fight sooner rather than later.
Boom Esports trying to keep their position as the next best behind PSG alive. 4 win streak on the line. Likai coming in, G-Man, coming in from the back line. Did see in the previous fight, that's how Machi found a convincing win, was just sniping out Wako right at the start of things. Does look like Alex is keeping very close ranks to his AD carry at this point. Isn't going to allow that flank to happen. Gemini just poking around. Wako still hasn't been able to find his target, and there is a 2-man hit squad right behind this ramp. Still unspotted. I believe Boom now catch wind of it, and they are forced into a very uncomfortable position. Doesn't look like they have decided which way they want to go just yet. We have Ruby coming up on the ramp, the rest of the members still on the river. Machi have a very good concave right here. They can attack from all different angles. It looks like Boom Esports are going to try and fish for an engage onto Likai. Likai flashes out immediately, stretching strikes, brings him back, and they're going to open up. But the Zhonya's
they're going for the dragon.
Decently alive. Hex check, ultimatum comes down. They trade Likai for that objective. Boom Esports do have that inner track on Baron that's going to respawn before Likai does. So about 16-second difference that they do have the 5v4 on the objective. And they're going to head straight for it with a lot of pushing waves in the meantime too. A perfect setup for them.
Yeah, and it's really just a perfect setup with that top wave where it is. However, they do need to secure this blue buff for Wako to actually make this play viable. And G-Man, he's just hanging out on the side, just waiting for an opportunity, and with them starting out Baron, he could get big value out of this Exalt.
Game definitely heating up right now. Boom Esports, this is their comeback ticket into the series. Ooh, Allen's going to open up, hits nothing. Gemini gets caught, but stretching strikes doesn't land. Boom Esports are going to head back towards the big purple worm. Wako tanking the Baron for a very long time. Actually goes down to half HP. Koala trying to fish his way into the
G-Man.
pit, doesn't really find it. G-Mian's ultimate, stolen ultimate I should say, forces everyone away, and Baron is going to reset. Machi is gifted back to 5v5. Likai back onto the rift and into the river already, but now G-Man
G-Man's
has
out of
become the
position
next target. Wako trying to catch him
They're
out
running
here.
straight down mid.
It doesn't look like Machi are going to respond to this pick. They're just going to leave G-Man to his own devices, but in the meantime, they are opening it on the mid lane inhibitor. G-Man does fall, and it's about how much Machi can actually trade back here. The answer is not much. They only get one tower.
So far, it's just been solo laner traded for an objective, and now Likai, he wants to try and finish off Rocky to try and even out the numbers, but I don't think this is the right play.
Atlan is going to fall down to below 30% HP. Likai goes back inexplicably, and Boom Esports get a perfect bait. Once again, they're going to have a two-man advantage heading into the Baron play. How will Machi get out of this one? It was a bit of a miracle that they got away from the last one, but this time around, I don't see how they do it. Boom Esports is going to start this one. Wako still has his blue buff ticking, so he's not going to have any more mana issues, and they spot out Gemini. Ruby and Pop going to escort the Lee Sin away from the objective. On the flip side, Koala trying to find some Raz. I don't think it's in them to give up on a Baron play. Gemini is still trying to find the angle, but Alex flies directly in. They get their first kill. G-Man finds the Baron take completely open. He's going to open up onto Wako, but Wako still doesn't have that Zanya. This fight is really coming down to the wire. Gemini does go down, which means that we do get the Baron on the side of Boom Esports, but they lose 2 for it. And finally, G-Man is punished. Boom Esports get a 3-man Baron buff, lose 2, but they actually still get the better end of the kill trade here. 2 for 3 and the Baron buff. It was very dicey for a while, but at the end of the day, Boom Esports come out ahead, albeit not with the full use of the Baron buff.
And now you're seeing the side of Machi Esports having a couple of compositional issues, and the fact that they just can't set up for that standard front to back. As you see here, it's really just they don't have the tools to get back into the Baron pit, as the zone does come out from Boom, and it's really well played for the most part, but the moment Alex leaves the Baron pit, it does open up a brief opportunity to flip the Baron and really to flip the game right then and there for Boom. However, they are able to secure the objective, and while it does come at a cost of losing 2 members, they do retain Baron on the important members, which is the solo laners and one of the last 3 in that 1-3 setup if they choose to run that option.
Bit of an oopsies coming out from Gemini. He flashes, and then Sonic waves the wrong way. So that was tough to watch. He could have had a much closer contest on the Baron, but doesn't happen. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I think the play would have developed the way that it did. And for now, Boom Esports, they are just going to have a very early teleport using the 2 members without the Baron buff to wave clear, and then surprise Machi as the 3 members with the Baron buff suddenly show outside of the jungle. Does catch Machi with their pants down. They're going to get a free, completely uncontested tower here. Wako holding on to the satchel charge, something I would never do. You should definitely go the Wako way. Alex is going to try to open up. Stretching Strike lands onto 1. They don't find the second target, and Rocky is the one to take most of the damage right here. Ignite already ticking down.
Likai on the side.
Go down.
They're split.
Comes in. Rocky still has the flash though and is able to get out, but this is Machi's fight for sure as they are continuing to try and get the flank. Likai definitely still hunting for his target here, but Boom Esports fall into formation and they chase the Camille off.
Really big escape coming in from Boom, as now Dragon is now live. This is Soul for Machi Esports as they try and once again set up flank angles to contest this last Dragon. If they are able to obtain it, it's so hard for them to lose against this mostly magic damage threat. Then here comes the teleport.
Gemini does find the Sonic Wave. Will he go in onto the pit? 2 teleports expended. Here comes Gemini. Will they get the soul? Alex secures it, but the team fight ensues directly afterwards. Gemian finds himself
getting so much
among 4
damage.
members, and he snipes out Wako. Main damage shield already down for Boom Esports. They trade 1 back, and the fight continues. Atlan is running away from the front line here. Viego getting multiple resets. Rocky is opening up, but Atlan's a little bit too far forward. However, he does have the immortal shield build, and the shielding coming through. Gets the double. I think that was the triple. And Machi scatter Boom Esports into the win with the team fight victory. Gemian doing a great amount of damage here, and it's up to Alex to keep the base alive.
37 minutes into the game, these death timers are not short at all. Machi, they're going to try and close this game out, but it is 15 seconds for Wako. If Alex is able to sacrifice himself to clear out this wave, it might be possible, but at this point of the game, Atlan does too much damage.
Alex does find Ligai though, puts a lot of crowd control down. Atlan is still untouched. Wako finally reses, but not enough damage. He does get the kill, but not enough. Gemini finishes off with the auto attacks, and Machi with a comeback win to break Boom Esports' win streak. Taking a look at the board right here, Machi does equal out on their wins with Boom Esports and climbs even higher into the standings, now at 3rd place. Boom Esports, they had a great early game, some really nice wins in the bottom side, and it looks like Machi, outside of being an esports team, is also a live musical band, trying to play the ukulele right there, I think, with Gemini showing off some good dance moves, if you can call them that. But anyway, congratulations to Machi for finding that immaculate flank win. They had a very difficult team fight to execute, but they do pull it off.
Yeah, it was definitely, again, both of these compositions, because of the low range, it was going to boil down to a big team fight for pretty much all these objectives. As we get to see the last team fight happen. They secured the dragon, but again, when you focus so much attention on securing the dragon, it means resources are burned for that, and it also means resources are not available for this fight. And we see Atlan got to output damage, and the shield bow comes up incredibly clutch in that last fight, making sure he's more than healthy enough to finish that and get triple.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't keep my mouth shut because I was watching Gemian and he found an abduct with 2 members stacking right on top of Wako. Wako comes out of the Zanias, instantly gets abducted. Like the hitboxes were like 70% stacked over each other, and Wako, like, only his tail, his small Yordle tail, I'm not even sure if Yordles have tails, but it was like a round thing on his butt, so I assume it's a tail, and he gets caught out by the abduct and dies instantly before he can throw any bouncing bombs. That was like, that precision from Gemian was so disgusting. I didn't catch it the first time around in the team fight, but watching that replay, I was so shocked at how they were able to snipe out Ziggs.
And these fights were incredibly close for the most part because of, again, how difficult it was to play the Machi composition with a very soul lane focus. They didn't have the standard front to back, even though they did have an Aphelios. And for the side of Boom Esports, I feel like they played these fights as well as they could, right? They clumped up as well as possible to protect the Ziggs, and when they were getting flanked upon, they tried attacking these flanks. And it really was just an incredible chess game to watch.
Yeah, that team fight, I felt like was about 60-40 in Boom Esports' favor. It definitely came down to very minute details in the execution. Gemian, for me, I think he's the MVP. He's my MVP for sure for pulling that one off. I don't think you're going to find many Silas is able to have that pinpoint accuracy on the abduct there, and I sort of feel bad for Boom Esports. This was a pretty decent draft. They had great leads in the bottom side. They really exploited Atlan and Koala to the max, but unfortunately they weren't able to come out with the win at the very end. Machi X, just with the extra dose of tenacity, to duke it out and take it into the late game. We're going to be taking a look at the gold graph. Bit of a roller coaster ride here, right here. These are the gold graphs I want to see in the PCS. Lots of back and forth, lots of close objective fights, 3 Drakes apiece, but at the end of the day, it still is G-Man coming out with the most, not the most damage of his team, but the most crucial plays for sure. Wako had a very good game in my eyes. Like, he was on point with the snipes. He did everything he could, but it was better offense that triumphed over defense.
And this was a very important game for both of these teams, right? For Boom, this is the start of an incredible, difficult 3-game stretch that they have Machi, they have Beyond, and then they have PSG. So teams that you would classify as perhaps the top 3 teams in the league. Unfortunately, they fall short in this game, but it does bode well for them into the next 2, as the bot lane showed a very, very good performance, and going into the next 2 games, they have a very tall task ahead of them, as it will be Atlan to secure that MVP, as he did 45% damage, which is an incredible amount, but at the same time, that also means that G-Man also did almost 45% damage.
Yeah, true. Atlan, he did close out the last team fight in style. I think that's why he was awarded the MVP. G-Man, you're still the MVP in my heart. Yeah, but it's okay.
740
Atlan,
gold.
I think what we can comment about this is that he was very impactful despite how bad the early phases went. He started this game 0-3-0, and at the end of it, he still wasn't completely outside of the hole. But he was still able to close out on that team fight in the end. 45% damage is pretty nuts when you consider 80 carries and their situation on this patch. So at the end of the day, congratulations to Machi. They do tie the game record with Boom Esports. Both teams are now 5 wins and 2 losses apiece, and Machi still have a game later today to actually overtake Boom in the standings. So we'll see if they can do that on the 4th game of the day against Hong Kong Attitude. But don't go anywhere, as we will have the 2nd game from PSG as they have a showdown between themselves and Berjaya Dragons.